This episode is sponsored by SmartVestor. Connect with an investing pro for free at RamseySolutions.com/invest. You're listening to Ramsey Everyday Millionaires, where we talk investing, retirement, building wealth, and outrageous generosity.
Joseph is in Greenville, South Carolina. Hey, Joseph, what's up?
Hey, Dave. How are you doing today?
Better than I deserve. How can I help?
So, just a little background. Back in 2015, I was in a terrific car accident where I sustained a severe traumatic brain injury. And for 4 years after that, I underwent many surgeries, one of them being one of the world's most dangerous surgeries, a craniotomy, which required the removal of half my skull for several months, and I had that done a total of 3 times. So life hit me hard out of nowhere. So the question is, and today I'm doing, and I just want to say I'm not your typical severe TBI survivor. I'm very blessed today. I have a beautiful family, 2 daughters, beautiful wife, and a job and a house. So I'm very blessed today. But the question I have for you is, how do I embrace the present moment to its fullest potential while also ensuring that I prepare for my future? Being as someone that knows how finite life can be, how quickly it can end, I just don't want to put myself in a place where I'm so focused on saving for the future to one I might not have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it sounds like you've made them mutually exclusive. What's the difference between living in the moment and preparing for your financial future?
Like, I've been tackling debt, but I want to make sure that when I have vacation time, I go on the vacations, I want to make sure I enjoy the money I have now, but I also want to be saving it for the future, for my kids.
Okay.
And you feel like you're missing out on something if you don't do it in a spectacular fashion? Let me tell you the thoughts that are going through my mind. We had the opportunity for the first time ever in our family's history to do an out-of-the-country, all 4 of us, me and my wife and the 2 kids went. And it was a magical trip, and it was pretty cool. And we did that last year. If you were to ask my 2 kids what their favorite trips, what's your favorite vacations? They would name that one. And they both would point back to this time we caught the giant catfish. What they don't know is the giant catfish was at a KOA. And we put a line out overnight, and we got up and fought that thing all morning, and it was a blast. And then we ate the catfish. It was a whole thing that we did together. My point is...
Didn't cost any money.
Didn't cost any money. And so it's this idea that YOLO, it has to be shiny, and we have to get on jets and go across the world versus... the most precious resource you got is time.
Yes, I do agree with that.
Okay. So then there's no strain between your vacation and your debt reduction, or between your vacation and your savings.
Well, I understand obviously you can have fulfilled moments without money. You can do these things without money and stuff. But I also understand, if it's hard now, it's easy later. So I want to make sure I with my job, get as much overtime as I can, be able to save as much money as I can. But at the same time, I want to make sure I'm not working so much and I'm not seeing the moments just pass by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta have a plan.
So here's the thing: you're projecting these concepts as if they never ebb and flow, as if they're a straight line. Like, I'm going to work overtime for the next 25 years and I'm never going to see my children. That's not how it works. Not how life works, number one, but it's also not what we suggest. So, but would I work overtime even in your situation where you've had this tremendous drama that you've been through that's legitimate, that makes you value every precious moment? And I get that. That's a clear perspective, right? And so what does that do? And it's like going to one of my good friend's funeral the other day. It's like one of the pastors said it's a tuning fork. Funerals and births are a tuning fork. They cause us to reset our lives and be very careful with what we're doing and thoughtful about what we're doing instead of just wasting away our lives. And that's what this event did for you, and that's what you're bringing up. And that's very wise. That's that's a positive result from the horrible thing you went through. So I'm aligned with you on all of that. But, when we say live like no one else so later you can live like no one else, it's a sprint so that you can get in the rhythm of a marathon. And the sprint is the only thing that's in question. And so, you got 18 months to get out of debt, and you're going to work like a crazy man overtime, and you're going to pile up some savings, get your emergency fund in place. But I don't want you doing that for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And can I flip it around, Joseph? Few people in the world understand like you do that you can be taken away from your family in a blink of an eye. And you and I have both accepted a responsibility as providers for our family that we're going to put them in the best possible situation, not if, but when we go. Dave has too. And so, if I'm in debt, if I'm behind, I'm going to work with all I can to get caught up so that I leave my family in the best possible position too.
Yeah. So what I would do is say, let's map this out. Okay. How much debt have you got? As an example. Let's use that as an example.
Okay, so I just recently finished paying off my wife's student loans.
Good.
And so right now, about $1,000 in credit card, and then I have to finish paying off my house and car.
Okay. How much you owe on the car?
About $10,000.
Okay. So you have $11,000 to be debt free other than the house. That's what we call baby step 2. So, and what do you make a year?
About $70,000 to $80,000 a year, depending on if I'm wanting to put in the grind for overtime.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'd put in the grind for overtime until I cleared the car and the credit card and cut the credit card up, be on a budget, and then let's get in steady mode and say, all right, part of our budget is enjoyment. Part of our budget is 15% of our income going into retirement. Part of our budget is we're going to throw a little extra at the house. Part of our budget is travel. Part of our budget is life. And you just start segmenting that out, and you can do all that. But I would go on a short sprint here and knock that car out and that credit card. That's an example. And then, here's the thing. If you lay it all out, you can save for long term. You can save for college and save for Christmas and save for a trip, all in the same budget. There's room in your budget to do that with what you just described. But you're going to have to be very intentional about it and very careful. And you might look up and go, we need to buy mom a different car, so I'm going to go work overtime for a month and save up that little bit extra and knock that car out. You can do that. But it's a come and go thing. I never have in my life, personally or prescribed for someone else, the idea that you work 80 hours a week your whole life. But I've worked a lot of 80-hour weeks in my life. And I'm not a bit ashamed of that. My children are not in counseling because of that. I didn't miss out on their childhood because of that. None of that crap, okay? It's a bunch of whining. And so, but I have worked some 80-hour weeks. I also have went periods of time where I don't do anything. And so I just got back off the longest vacation of my life. I've never done that before. And so I'm not opposed to that. But, the point is, this stuff is ebb and flow. The problem people have, John, not Joseph, but other people on this whole subject, and we'll just finish that up, is that they're never where they are.
That's exactly right.
They're at work, and they're halfway at work, not paying attention, and if they're operating powerful machinery, they're a danger because they're thinking about they ought to be at home. And then when they're at home, they're thinking about they ought to be at work. And then when they're on vacation, they're thinking about they ought to be home at work. Instead of like, hey, why don't you be where you is? Turn your stupid phone off, throw it in a basket or the lake, one of the two, and be where you is. And then you start to get this life balance that's real.
Or don't work an 80-hour week indefinitely because you think chasing something's going to solve you or heal you or make you some sort of superhero. Work 80-hour weeks when you get a job done.
Yeah, and then when you get it done, stop.
That's right.
Yeah, move on to the next thing.
It's called being an adult.
Yeah, back it off. But it's an ebb and flow. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. This is not a still lake where the levels never change.